You all taste so much better when you're afraid.
Hurry, Bev, kill it!
Kill me? Oh, you are priceless, rat. I am eternal, child. I am the eater of worlds and of children.
Hey, Cassettes, and welcome back to the Black Case Diaries.
Welcome.
Hey.
Oh, gosh, welcome.
Yeah. We're three old friends learning everything we can about movies and TV and hopefully teaching you in the process. I'm Marcy.
I'm Robin.
And I'm Adam.
Hi.
Yay.
What's up? It's frightening February, which means we get to spend this whole month just scaring the crap out of Adam.
Yay!
See? I knew it.
We should get some balloons.
Looks like the cat's finally out of the bag.
And this week, we decided to expose him to one of the most famous stories in the horror genre, Stephen King's It. And because we're suckers for nostalgia, we're focusing on the 1990 two-part miniseries based on the novel.
And before you ask, everybody, no, I will not be watching the new one. Probably ever.
Aw, you should.
But you already know what happens.
You know what
now.
happens already.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it doesn't look way more horrifying in the new one and would be a lot more effective on me. So,
I think there are some really cool moments
Yeah.
in It Chapter 1 that
Yeah.
Adam would really like.
Yes.
But there are also some very scary moments that
Yeah.
Adam would not like. So,
Yeah. You know. In 1986, the unofficial king of horror,
yeah.
Stephen King, of course, unleashed what would become one of his quintessential stories. It was a saga about a group of outcasts that bands together to survive, and then later take down a horrifying monster that feasts on children. The book's title, It, played on one of the key ingredients to a truly terrifying villain, not knowing what it is.
Yeah.
Only a couple of years later, ABC was considering making a made-for-TV film based on the novel. The task was ambitious, to say the least, since the source material is over 1,000 pages long. The network also faced the challenge of towing the line between being a faithful adaptation and getting past the TV censors. So let's head into the town of Derry, Maine, and learn more about the 1990 miniseries based on Stephen King's novel, It.
Yeah! Woo, woo. Derry, Maine, the scariest town in the United States.
Yep.
Truly. Adam, what did you think?
True.
Because we had Adam watch it.
yes. I knew this one wasn't going to be so bad because I had heard, it's from the 90s. It's got a little bit of camp to it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
on TV, so it couldn't get that bad. They could only get so much past censors.
Yeah.
And things like that. And I know Tim Curry was in it, and I
Yeah.
just this one I think will be fine, and it turned out to be fine. So yeah, I would put this one relatively low on the scare meter,
Right.
like out of 10, maybe like a 5, like right down the middle, because
Nice.
there's some freaky moments for sure.
Right.
Some
Yeah.
of the imagery is pretty creepy still,
Yeah.
but for the most part, not too bad.
This was all of our first times, right?
Yeah.
Watching
Yep.
the
Oh,
miniseries.
you guys hadn't seen it?
Nope, never
I
seen
didn't
it.
realize
No.
that.
We saw the 2017.
I'd seen the 2017.
version,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not this version.
I had seen clips of this. And
Yeah.
I was actually afraid to watch it growing up because my brothers watched it, and the cover.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
You would go into Blockbuster and you
Yep.
would see this
Yep.
cover, and it
Every
was
time.
oh my god,
yeah.
the
Yep.
plain white cover with Pennywise and the monster hand,
yeah.
horrifying.
Yep.
And I see my dad is a clown, and growing up, clowns were like actually a really nice,
Yeah.
fun, good thing for me, which I
Fun,
think is
calming, yeah.
a very different experience than most people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so
I mean, especially after this movie.
yeah. And so to me, I was like, what the heck could that be about?
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
And people that haven't seen it, that are too afraid of clowns, or
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
whatever, even before seeing that, I think I have to tell a lot of people, like, no, this character is not
It's not a
clown.
clown.
Like, it portrays itself as a clown.
Yes.
But it's something else. Like
Right. The concept is that he's taking a form, or it's taking a form that is disarming.
Yep.
It's supposed to draw you in,
Yep.
make you feel good, and that especially in the 1950s when the part 1 takes place in the
Yeah.
books, at that point in time, clowns weren't.
Yeah.
Some people were afraid of them, sure, but it wasn't collectively everyone's afraid of clowns.
Yeah.
Right.
And so at that point, it made sense for kids to see a clown and be like, "Oh, sure,
yeah.
I'll come talk to you.
Yeah.
You're safe."
Yeah.
I'll go down in the sewer.
Right. But it's so easy
Yep.
to shift
flip.
from being something so innocent
Yeah.
to something terrifying in
Yeah.
just a moment, just one change.
Yep.
I really enjoyed this.
I did too. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Tim Curry did an amazing job.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, unparalleled. Like,
I
it's
mean,
just
yeah.
like you just perfect choice. They did so well on the casting for him, and yeah.
Yeah, it was fun in
Yeah.
that way because his character was like, he's the bad guy, but it's
Right.
just like, wow, you can't help but
but you can't help it.
Yeah.
enjoy his scenes. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone out there who hasn't seen this version of it, here's a summary for you. There's something evil plaguing the town of Derry, Maine. It resurfaces every 27 years, or 30 years in the miniseries, terrorizing children and causing unfathomable grief. One summer, a group of kids called the Losers Club uses their bond of friendship to take down the monster, sometimes known as Pennywise the Clown. They make a pact that if it ever comes back, they will also return to kill it for good. Sure enough, it does return 3 decades later, and so must the Losers Club. This group of adults must face their internal demons and repressed childhood memories in order to stop this monster for good. Oh man, it knows what scares you, they say.
It knows what scares you. Man, this is one of those really great ensemble stories, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
I love that. And what's cool about it is there's 7 of them, which is
Yeah.
like, that's a lot. So
Unusually
often,
big.
yeah, so often it's 3, 5, but
Yeah.
7.
7 is
Yeah. And it's so complex, and I love the group. Each person brings something really special to the group. So let's talk about the making of this special miniseries.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In the late 1980s, producers Frank Konigsberg and Larry Sinitsky approached screenwriter Lawrence D. Cohen about writing a script for It. Cohen had a lot of experience bringing Stephen King stories to the screen, as he was the screenwriter for Carrie and the Tommyknockers.
Oh, nice.
Cohen accepted the challenge and teamed up with legendary director George Romero to create an epic 8 to 10 hour version of the book. The two collaborated on episode treatments, hoping that ABC would allow an 8-episode miniseries. But ABC said no. They agreed to produce 4 hours, and George Romero left the project. A moment of silence for what might have been.
Oh gosh.
Later on, writer Larry Cohen said that he believed it would have been as huge as Game of Thrones had they been allowed to make it.
Wow.
He would write up his treatment, he would send it to George, George would add notes, change stuff, send it back to him,
Wow.
and George Romero and Stephen King were buddies. So, he was clearly really familiar with the source material.
Yeah.
And I cannot express how long this book is.
Yeah.
It's hefty.
I remember it always being one that people would bring up when we were younger.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, some of the longest books, and people would always mention it.
Yes, it's a hefty book. It's filled with a lot of lore. It's complicated. It's weird.
Yeah.
And so much of that is completely lost in the miniseries and in the new movies because it's just they just can't cram it all in there.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the actors actually hadn't read the book
Yeah.
beforehand.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of them had to, like, quickly, like, read it. And they were like, yeah, it took me at least a day and a half to, like, read the whole thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
they read it,
It would
like,
take me so much more.
Yeah. I mean,
day and a half?
Yeah.
Well, because they were
It was all they were doing.
Yeah,
I
they
guess
were
so.
getting
Yeah.
ready for a part, so that's
Yeah.
what they had to do. So they took a whole day and a half to do it. But
Jeez, that's crazy.
John Ritter, though, he was a fan of Stephen King, so he would always go and
Nice.
get the books
Right.
immediately.
When director Tommy Lee Wallace was asked to take on the project, he hadn't read the book. At this point, the first half of the miniseries had been completed by Larry Cohen, and Wallace decided to accept the job after reading the screenplay. Cohen's 7-act first episode really captured the tone of the story. Wallace thought it was the most unique thing ever written for TV. Each act focused on one of the main characters and their personal experience with Pennywise, a form often taken by the monster. However, part 2 of the series wasn't finished. Cohen had to leave the project to work on another film, and Wallace was left to rework the ending of the story himself. It was clear that the childhood part of the story, part 1, was more meaningful and interesting, and that's why Cohen and Wallace decided to intersperse moments with the adult actors in the childhood scenes.
Yeah, that's, I guess, supposedly one of the really controversial
Yeah.
or polarizing things about
Yeah.
this version.
Yeah.
How it's kind of the characters are children and adults kind of simultaneously,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's almost like the adults are adults now from the start, and they're just, all of the kid scenes are like flashbacks essentially. And I guess some people think that it's super odd.
Yeah. I think it's because so many people love the childhood part.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the part that's nostalgic.
Yeah.
That's the part that, people really grab onto and connect
Yeah.
to, because it's all, that's where they make the friendships,
Yeah,
and they
they're-
really first face the monster.
Yeah.
And I think that people had a difficult time with, because the miniseries actually begins in the quote unquote current time, 1990,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
and a child gets eaten.
Yep.
And then they kind of have these flashbacks, right? Because, now we've got Mike, who's the only one of the group who stayed in Derry, Maine,
Yep.
while the others left. They needed one person to stay behind because when you leave Derry, you actually forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You actually forget about it. You forget about all of it. So he had to stay. And so then now he's calling all of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
members of the group to come back.
Right.
And they did it this way, which I think it was a really interesting way to frame it.
Yeah.
But I do actually really like it.
Yeah.
I don't find it to be super jarring,
Yeah.
but I totally understand why
Right,
people
right.
don't like
People-
it, because I think they liked that part 1 was just like a complete story.
Right.
Yeah.
You could stop after part 1 if you wanted to.
Yeah. I'd never truly know. I think also having the adult portions interspersed in kind of removed the tension from the children's scenes, because it
Right,
showed you
right.
that all of the children make it, and that they're all they all make it to adulthood.
That's a good point.
So I think that also kind of relieves that tension, and it makes it doesn't, the kids feel
least-
less center stage
Yeah.
and more like, like you said, a flashback. Yeah.
Yeah. Because one by one, you see that they survive. Because
Yes.
they do kind of, take it one adult character at a time.
They really do. Wallace was drawn to the fact that the story involved a team of people. He had an affinity for films that assembled teams of characters. He also liked the root of the story, that it wasn't just shocking horror fiction, but that it was about childhood abuse and trauma, and how we want to return and understand it better as adults. The series was filmed at the Bridge Studios in Vancouver, Canada. Filming there was much cheaper than in California, and the location was an abandoned shipyard. Although studios had been filming there since the mid-'80s, the popularity of it helped put the location on the map.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once filming began, it became clear that there wasn't a lot of room in the budget. Production had to stretch costs wherever possible. Because of this, they had to get creative during the scenes that required special effects. At times, this worked in the series' favor, as less can often mean more in horror. For example, for many viewers, the scariest form of the monster was a clown with sharp teeth.
Yeah.
Yep. Simple, easy, just like one
Yep.
costume.
Yeah. That's so interesting how that works. Why?
Yeah.
Right? Why is it that the scariest things are the things that look similar to what we already know,
Yeah.
but with a little change?
Dude,
Just slightly more sinister.
the uncanny valley, man, is a real effect. It affects a lot of people. It's so close to real, but not. So it's weird.
Fantasy 2 was the special effects team for the miniseries. In the final face-off, we see its final form, a large spider-esque creature. The team had, quote, champagne ideas on a beer budget. It took 12 weeks to build the spider. It was interspersed with a stop-motion animated version during the final battle. Special effects artist Brenton Baker was inside the monster. When it fell to its side, at the end, he fell too, and he was covered in bruises.
Oh, poor guy.
Oh my gosh.
Poor guy.
So, look, can we talk about that for a second? Because a lot of people are really let down by the spider.
Yeah. Yeah, they are pretty let down by the spider.
Yeah.
I will also say that the special effects team said that the spider could do a lot more than it actually does in this film. But
Interesting.
when you're filming stuff, it's kind
Yeah.
of like, okay, we need this shot, we want this shot, all that. So they didn't
Yeah.
actually get to show off the full range
Of what it could do.
this spider could do. So if you want to see
Yeah.
more of that, there's a documentary. It's called Pennywise right now. But
Yeah, it's really good. It's
yeah,
really good documentary.
It's really good. But yeah, people were disappointed that it was a spider.
Yeah, how did you feel about that, Adam?
I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
So but I was a little bit like confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not because he was a big spider, but because it felt so
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
like, very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, I guess that's him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
All
Dude,
right.
that's the thing. It's like once you reveal what it really is, it's like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, this was causing all this trouble. Like, how was
Yeah.
it doing any of that?
Yeah. I think it's so funny because this is such a common criticism of it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's just so much context missing.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
it. Yeah,
I
that's
feel like
true.
that's it.
I believe in the book it is also a spider.
Yes, it
that
is.
It is the final form.
Yeah,
But like,
it is.
Yeah. I don't know. It's probably a lot different reading it versus watching it.
I think a massive spider
Yeah.
in real life
Yeah.
would be very scary.
Yeah.
Not just because spiders are scary, but
Yeah.
also because that thing could just step on you.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
You know,
True.
and you're dead.
I mean,
like,
it makes sense in the fact that because Bill Denborough's wife gets kind of mesmerized
Yeah.
/ kidnapped by him,
Yeah.
and it was almost like he was using a venom, but
Yeah.
it was transferred through his eyes, kind of like it's the
deadlights.
deadlights,
Yeah.
the deadlights, which was an interesting thing versus an actual venom to make
Right.
paralyze her. He just kind of looked at her and was like, yeah.
And there you go.
And then
Yeah.
she was out of it, and he was able to wrap her up and
in a cobweb like a spider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I wonder, why would he just keep all those would he ever feast on them later?
A character does essentially what a spider does.
Okay.
It wraps the people up in its web,
Yeah.
and it doesn't necessarily eat people, it eats their life force.
Yes. Okay.
But torturing them, making them scared, making them in pain
Yeah.
first makes them taste better.
Yeah. Which is
And
why
that-
the kids.
That's why
likes
he
to scare
mutilates the
them.
kids.
Yeah.
And sometimes he eats them too,
Yeah.
but for fun.
Yeah.
So those bodies, he doesn't need those.
No.
They're
That's
basically just like husks.
they're trophies.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trophies.
Jeez.
You know, because spiders, for example, a spider doesn't eat the fly.
That's
Right.
true.
It sucks the blood out and then
Yeah.
leaves it there.
Yeah.
That's
That's
true.
true. That is true.
So it's
That's a
more
good-
like that.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
makes total sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most memorable scenes are in the beginning, when we see two children get eaten by the monster. First is the little girl, that signifies the return of it. The second is Georgie Denborough. Both scenes were filmed using rain machines. Tim Curry as Pennywise did not act opposite the little girl in her scene because the production knew it would scare her too much.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was nice of them.
It was
to
nice
take
of
that
them.
into consideration.
They said that she did see him on set, and it did. Terrified her.
Yeah, she said that she never ended up watching the movie because she just couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't blame her, yeah.
In Georgie's scene, Tim Curry spoke into a nearby manhole so that the young actor playing Georgie could hear his voice.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so he's not actually in. When you see him talking, that grate is real that he's talking into. Like, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
But, like, Tim Curry's not actually in the sewer,
Down
obviously.
in there,
Yeah. The set designers built the sewer so that Tim Curry could stand and look out of the opening. So that's just a set that he's looking out of.
Nice.
Separate. Yeah.
The production first considered stage and screen actor Harvey Fierstein to play the part of the heinous monster, Pennywise the Dancing Clown. That would have been different.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the role went to Tim Curry, an actor known for his intensity and charm. The casting directors had seen Curry in Rocky Horror Picture Show and felt that he might have a knack for horror. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Curry had just finished a film where he had to wear heavy prosthetics, and he insisted on not wearing too much makeup for it. Tommy Lee Wallace agreed and struck a deal with Curry that allowed him to wear basic clown makeup in most of his scenes. The only addition was a forehead extension that elongated his face. What they did with Tim Curry as Pennywise was really, really smart.
Yeah.
They took the basic ideas of what a clown looks like, and they made it just not right. Like, just a little...
Just a little off.
Little tweak.
Yeah. Clowns before, you know, they often wore the prosthetic, the elongated, like, cone on the head. Like Lou Jacobs, he was the most famous clown in the world at one point, and he was one of those.
Yeah.
And they did that, and they put red hair on him.
Yeah.
Which is very common for clowns. But they separated the hair just a little too much. You know, talk a little bit about his nose. They made his nose turn up like Lon Chaney.
Yes.
Like, they were kind of trying to, like, they
Bring
made him a
about that
clown.
monster. Yeah.
They made him look like a normal clown, but then they gave him a little bit of a monster twist.
Yes. Which that was after many drawings and many
Yeah.
thoughts about what they wanted to do.
Right. Curry himself had never found clowns to be threatening, but the fear of clowns was becoming more and more common in the late 1980s, especially after the 1970s serial killings of John Wayne Gacy. Gacy was a serial murderer that targeted young men and boys. He also happened to be a clown performer. The general fear and discomfort of clowns seemed to reach its peak in the 1980s, and Stephen King really tapped into it with It. In a way, clowns represent innocence, as they're more often performers for children. The idea of something so seemingly harmless attacking unsuspecting children was horrifying.
Yeah.
Still is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of why the fear of clowns has persisted.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily because of it. I mean, it certainly helped, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's just a thing, aside from it, that, you know, I know a lot of people who really don't like clowns anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides the common uneasiness that some people feel around clowns, there are also those that suffer from coulrophobia, the fear of clowns. Although Pennywise is the main antagonist of the story, Henry Bowers leaves a lasting impression as the intimidating childhood bully. Bowers is the ultimate representation of how mankind is its own breed of monster. His cruelty stems from the abuse that he has endured his entire life, although this is hardly explored in the miniseries.
Yeah.
He just seems like an asshole for asshole's sake.
I mean, there's like one small part where they like really allude to it, where he gets in trouble with the teacher, and she's like, she's basically like, don't make me tell your dad. You know, it's not a good situation at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is, I think, one of the things that is a little bit lacking about the miniseries is that we don't know why he is the way he is.
Yeah.
Because, he does just kind of seem like he just wants to mess with people.
Yeah.
And he's just a bully because.
Yeah. I also just don't see him as big of a threat.
I think part of it is that he never like wins.
Yeah.
You never
Yeah.
see him like really beat somebody up.
That's
Yeah.
true.
It always gets stopped short. So you
Yeah.
never really, it doesn't feel like he's done any damage, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Henry Bowers is so much worse
Yeah.
than he is in this miniseries. Bowers was played by Jared Blankard, who also appeared in the 90s show Ninja Turtles, The Next Mutation.
He also, like, after every take where he had to say something racially awful, he apologized.
Oh,
So, like, he was just awesome because, like, even though it was a
Yeah.
part, he still was like,
Sure.
I'm so sorry. The children cast to play the Losers Club were mostly new to acting. Casting directors were looking for 3 main characteristics in the kids: humor, being able to handle painful scenes, and the ability to act scared. The children and their adult counterparts would spend time together and try to match up mannerisms so that the audience could see how the children and adults were the same people.
yeah.
Yeah, they did
Yeah.
it very purposefully
Yeah.
after they all got the phone call.
Yeah.
Right? The phone call to come back, and they all know what's happening. They all immediately go back to their little tell
Yeah.
that they did as a kid, like
Yep.
pulling on their ear or biting their fingernails,
Or
or
something of that
Yeah.
sort. Exactly.
pulling on the hair. It's
Yep.
just that thing they did as a kid that they showed
Yep.
them doing as a kid
Yep.
all the time. And then,
Yep.
the adults doing it. They're
Yep.
I
right
know.
back.
Watching them revert.
Yeah.
Yep. The inhaler. and
Yeah.
the-
Yep.
The acting was so good in this, honestly. I thought that everyone did a good job.
Yes, absolutely. The kid scenes and the adult scenes were filmed almost simultaneously, with the kids filming mostly during the day and the adults in the evening. The young and older versions of the Losers Club would spend time together and bonded over playing the same characters. Jonathan Brandis played the young Bill Denborough. Brandis was already a TV actor when he got the part of Bill, and he went on to become a TV and film star throughout the 80s and 90s. Brandis was famous for productions like Sequest, DSV, and the film Sidekicks. They talked about how he had plans of like becoming I believe a director, like, so he was like, planning to do all that, but then tragically
Yeah, he died by suicide at age 27.
Oh, man.
it was heartbreaking for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Marlon Taylor played Mike Hanlon, age 12. Taylor later appeared on the TV show Sister Sister, where he got to act with Tim Reed, his former It co-star.
Yeah.
Brandon Crane played Ben Hanscom, age 12. Crane went on to appear in The Wonder Years and also had a cameo in the 2019 version of It, Chapter 2.
Yeah.
Hey.
That's very cool. Seth Green played the young Richie Tozier. He has also had a successful film and TV career, appearing in films like The Italian Job and Can't Hardly Wait.
I feel like for us, he's the most famous kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, oh my gosh, Seth
Yeah.
Green.
We're like, oh my God.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Emily Perkins played Beverly Marsh, age 12. She has appeared in series like Supernatural and When Calls the Heart. Adam Farisal played Eddie Kasprak, age 12. He appeared in a few other made-for-TV movies in the early 90s. And finally, Ben Heller played Stanley Uris, age 12. Although he went on to become a producer, the 1990 It miniseries is one of his only acting roles.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Who's your favorite? So we just went down the list of kids.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, man,
I know.
you're going to make me pick.
See, here's the thing. I never felt like I really had a favorite,
Yeah.
but I just realized it because, like, every time I watch it, I'm just so heartbroken when Eddie dies
Yeah.
that I'm like, he's my
Yeah.
favorite. He's my favorite one. I
Yeah.
think I just,
Yeah.
there's something about him that I love. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But when he's a kid, especially because he acts so grown up, like, you know, as a kid, he's just so cute. But yeah,
I think I really like Ben.
Ben,
You know, because
okay.
he's quietly like
Yeah.
in love with Bev the whole time. You know, but he totally just lets her think that it's Bill who wrote that note.
Right.
And
She
he's
thinks-
just kind of
yeah.
there for her.
There was absolutely no reason
Yeah.
for her to think that Bill wrote the note.
Yeah.
She wanted Bill to have written the note. That
exactly.
was why she thought he wrote the
Yes,
note. Because that's what she
exactly.
wanted. And so he just
Yeah.
let it go. He
Yep.
didn't
he was all
Yeah.
whatever.
You know, it's funny because I standing here, I have a hard time picking one. But as you were talking, I was like, shoot, maybe my favorite might be Beverly.
Oh.
That's a great
Because
choice,
I kind
though,
of
too.
like her position in the group as like
Yeah.
the, I don't know, the overseer.
Yeah.
Just kind of this
Yeah.
She is.
cut it out kind of attitude where
Yeah.
she's like
She's
able
like the
to
adult.
Yeah.
she handles
Yeah.
these 6 boys so flawlessly, even though they rag on her sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just like,
Yeah.
whatever, here's a perfect comeback. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know,
I know, yeah,
I
'cause-
like that. Because they were like, oh, we're building this dam. Sorry if that's weird. She's like, oh, pff, I've got an idea or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
like right in. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I say Eddie, but also I think it's such. Mike is just such a close second for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
I really, I just, it's really tough. It's really
Yeah,
tough. Eddie,
shoot.
Mike.
Yeah.
It's a really good
Dang
group
it, you're
of kids,
right.
so
Yeah.
it's hard to really pick one.
Many of the adult actors cast in It had worked together before, except for Tim Reed and Richard Thomas, who played Mike Hanlon and Bill Denborough, respectively. The actors made it a point to spend time together outside of work so that they could form a stronger bond on screen. Richard Thomas is possibly best known as John Boy from the Waltons, while Tim Reed is known for shows like Sister Sister and WKRP in Cincinnati. John Ritter, known for shows like Three's Company and 8 Simple Rules, played the adult Ben Hanscom. Ritter was a huge Stephen King fan, and his favorite book by King was The Stand.
Hey.
Ritter insisted the series include a scene where he explains his weight loss. The director didn't think it was necessary, but the other actors backed him up, and the scene was added, using dialogue almost directly lifted from the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And he did it pretty fast. Like, he talks through
Yeah.
it really fast.
He just explains like I joined track and
yeah,
Yeah.
and the coach made fun of me, and I was like, "Screw you! I'm gonna,
Yeah.
blah blah blah." But yeah, so and they wanted him honestly to do it even faster, but he was like, "No, if I do it any faster, you're not even gonna hear it."
You understand what I'm saying?
Ritter also wished that the series included Maturin, the giant turtle arch nemesis of Pennywise. Unfortunately, it wasn't included. In the 2017 film version of It, Maturin is briefly referenced but never explained. Because of this, much of the lore behind Pennywise and how the Losers Club is able to defeat him is known only by the fans of the book. Ah, so that's the info that we're missing.
Yeah, because truly, I think they find the spider,
Yeah.
and then they just kind of like, they kind of wiggle around and try to figure out what to do about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Eddie
they-
sprays
they-
some stuff.
They get stuck in its light, right?
Yeah.
Bev shoots it with silver to break the trance for a second.
Yep.
And then they just like punch it. They just
pull
punch
out the
and
heart.
kick it.
Yeah.
Like, what? It felt a little strange
Yeah.
that it didn't require more to like finally do it, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a very common criticism, and I think it's just because we're missing context.
Yeah. Director Tommy Lee Wallace encouraged the actors to bring pieces from their own lives to the characters. Dennis Christopher, who played the adult Eddie Casbrack, brought his own vitamin bottles as props for his character. And he said he still, like, in the commentary, he was like, I still pretty much take a whole bunch of vitamins and everything. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
he's like, that's just me. Harry Anderson played the wisecracking Richard Tozier. Anderson was possibly best known for playing Judge Harry Stone on Night Court. Ah, that's cool.
Okay,
That's right. I can picture him now in that role.
Yeah.
Okay. The actor that had the least screen time out of the 7 was Richard Mazer. He played Stanley Uris, who seemed to be the most traumatized, even in adulthood, by what happened in Derry. Mazer had been on Broadway, but you may recognize him as either Clark from the 1982's The Thing, or as the dad in Disney's Mr. Boogedy.
Holy cow.
It was so fun to see him in this.
Yeah!
Dude.
The scene that he wanted to get through quickly was when he had to be crammed into a small fridge. He had a fake neck on, and the rack was cut with enough room for him to slide his head in. Set design then kept putting drinks and things around his head.
It's essentially the trick of like the table when your head's on a platter or whatever,
yeah,
and you're
yeah.
underneath the table. Yeah.
Well, Mikey, you did it. You got us all back here. I guess it's because it's the only way you'd ever see us. Since you're so lame, you'd never leave this town. I finally made it, guys. I'm in the deadlights now.
And you know what? It's true what they say. We all float down here, and you will too.
Annette O'Toole identified with her part as Beverly Marsh because she recognized that women and girls were held to a different standard during that time. The movie briefly touches on it, but her father was judging her and punishing her for her emotional and sexual maturity. Annette O'Toole is known for Superman 3 from 1983 as Lana Lang and Elaine in the movie 48 Hours.
Yeah. Beverly, especially young Beverly, really does show this really important through line in the movie.
Right.
You know, where, you know, first of all, the cycle of abuse, you know, she's being abused by her dad, but also, you know, how the people in the town really aren't looking out for the kids.
Yeah, they aren't.
And aren't really speaking up for the kids. And, you know, because there's that scene where Henry Bowers and his gang has cornered Bev.
Yeah.
And outside of her house, and they're holding her against the fence, and it's implied, you know, that they're going to do something very bad to her.
Yeah.
And a neighbor across the street looks at her, and they lock eyes, and the neighbor looks concerned, but he just walks away.
Yeah. He does nothing and walks away.
Yeah.
The groups of child and adult actors played well off each other in their respective scenes. Richard Thomas, who played Bill, said that his favorite scene was the one that takes place in a Chinese restaurant. This is the first scene where the audience sees the adult characters together. It was filmed on location in a real restaurant and took 3 days to complete. Wow.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of Chinese food.
It sure is. Each of the actors had their chance to improvise as the camera panned around the table to get a shot of each of them. It was consistently a challenge to include all of the cast in a single shot, as the camera was formatted for TV and not widescreen. Puppeteers hid beneath the table to manipulate the fortune cookies that come to life in the scene. The director used a handheld camera to emphasize the panic in the movement as all the adults discover that their childhood fears were still a reality.
I love this scene too. And this scene's in the new movie also.
Yep.
It's such an important part because they do all come together for the first time, and you see them play off each other as adults for the first time, and they're happy.
Yeah.
They're so happy to see each other.
Yeah.
They're just relieved to see each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah,
Like they're, you know,
They're like, we've never loved anybody as much as,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And so they are so happy to be there. And this is just like this little moment of sunshine before they have to basically deal with what's going on.
Right.
And I love this part.
Yeah, it's nice because when they first when each of them first arrive in Derry, they have a little run-in with Pennywise, and he does something creepy for them.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's like, oh no, he's just messing with them already. He's back.
Yeah.
He's got the upper hand, right?
Yeah.
But then you have this scene where they finally meet, and they're like all relieved, and they just enjoy the evening for once.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know about you guys, but this is the first time since I got here that I feel good. I mean, I feel halfway safe. Come on. Let's have a couple of drinks, huh? If you want some good food, have a couple of chucks, and let's just leave the wolf out the door, huh?
Spoken like a real loser, Richie.
Hey, to the Losers Club.
All right.
The losers.
Despite cutting several scenes in the film, broadcast standards of ABC rejected the miniseries. But producer Jim Green addressed the head of the department and asked for notes on how to get the series approved. He received so many notes, it would have been impossible to get the series approved without completely gutting the story. Green argued that since they had purchased a Stephen King novel, they should expect a Stephen King novel. And this is what the series is. Broadcast standards ultimately agreed and approved the series without requiring any cuts.
Good.
I love that argument because it's like we made this.
Yeah.
You said it was okay.
Yeah.
We made it. And now you won't air it?
One deleted scene included an officer carrying Georgie's body to the Denborough's front door. The scene was likely cut because they were already pushing boundaries for TV viewership. The scene was no doubt devastating to watch.
I can't imagine this. I'm glad they cut it.
For sure.
Yep.
First of all, no cop would ever do that.
Right,
yeah.
right.
No.
Yeah.
No, they would leave the body where it was.
Right.
First of all.
No, first of all,
and then-
what?
Yeah, it's just take it to the morgue.
Yeah,
or so. Like,
it's crime scene.
Yeah, they wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
You wouldn't just pick up the body and carry it.
Another deleted scene was the moment when the Losers Club became, quote, blood brothers. This scene was removed because of the AIDS epidemic. ABC didn't want to encourage children to transfer blood.
So the composer for this miniseries was Richard Bellis. Bellis grew up about the same time as Stephen King and felt connected with the childhood that is portrayed. He felt that the main focus was that the kids were in jeopardy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's the thing I think that makes it so hard to watch, is
Yeah.
that the kids are in trouble.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that. Especially in the beginning with the little girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's tough for me.
She was so close to being able to go inside.
Yeah.
So close.
He won the Emmy for Outstanding Achievement in Music Composition for a miniseries or a special in 1991.
Sweet.
Yeah, this is an Emmy-winning miniseries.
Dang.
All right.
There we
Very
go.
nice.
Okay.
Yeah, the music was really good.
We see you. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about reception. How do you guys think this was received? I think you guys know.
Yeah, we kind of know.
Medium.
Medium.
Yeah.
Lukewarm.
Lukewarm.
Ken Tucker from Entertainment Weekly in 1990 gave it a B-, saying, "In addition to its slow pace, I found the ending a bit of a letdown. Unimaginative special effects animate the monster in its final incarnation. But the cast is terrific, Curry's cackle is chilling, and King's usual buried theme about the pain adults inflict on children without even realizing it is always worth pondering."
Yeah. So overall, not a bad review.
Yeah.
But could have been better.
It could have been better, but I think that, honestly, I think it was better than B-. I wouldn't give it a B-.
Yeah. Yep.
Knowing the source material,
Yep.
I would say that they did a pretty good
A
job.
good job of
Right,
condensing that. They really weren't given a chance. I mean, I only had 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, if they had been able to do the full
Yeah.
8 to 10 hours that they wanted,
Yeah.
I mean, it could
Yeah.
still be looked back on as one of the best
Right.
Yeah.
TV adaptations ever made.
I think so.
Yep.
It also saw a resurgence of popularity as the series went to VHS. The iconic white cover with Tim Curry and his monster hand scarred any child that saw it in Blockbuster.
Absolutely.
It was scary looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember vividly always just when you were not sure what you wanted, you
Yeah,
just walk
you
up
just
and down
walk in.
each aisle, just like, what looks good.
Yeah.
And I would still walk down the scary movie aisle because
Yeah.
most of the time the cover didn't really jump out, or
Yeah.
I had no
Yeah.
reason to be afraid of just the cover. I knew I wasn't going to pick anything from this aisle,
Yeah.
but I was just walking down every aisle, right?
Yeah.
But it would always
Yeah. It stood
be
out.
the one that stood out. Seriously.
Yeah. The fact that the series aired on TV meant that it was suitable for older kids to watch. For the first time, the story was accessible for younger audiences, and for many, it was their introduction to Stephen King.
Yeah. Yep.
You could actually watch this, you could be 12, 13, and
Yeah.
actually watch it on TV because it aired on prime time and it got past the censors.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
if any movie is not suitable for TV, it gets edited, right?
Yep.
But since this was made for TV, everything
It
was
was all there.
had been cleared, even though reluctantly, but
yeah.
cleared.
It was.
And it was scary. I mean, at the time,
Yeah.
it probably did scar a lot of
It
kids.
affected
For
a
sure.
lot of kids.
Yeah.
For sure.
Which is partly why there's so much nostalgia for it now, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think a lot of people rewatch. I read so many reviews where people said it's not as scary as you think. You know,
Right,
oh,
right.
watch this scene; it's so cheesy. Watch, oh, the effects are so,
Yeah.
And it's like when you were a kid, you saw it through kids' eyes.
Yeah, so different.
It didn't matter to you that it didn't look like perfect or real.
Or
You
had
know,
any camp to it.
yeah, like that
exactly.
didn't matter then when you
Nope.
watched it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think if people will watch it now and go, oh, I was afraid of that.
Like, what?
Yeah, but I still think that it does hold that, that horror, that sense of horror.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, now we've got a couple of fun facts as our last little bit here. John Ritter took home one of the cards from the deck that had Pennywise's face on it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that? It had-
Yeah, during the
Yes.
bicycle scene.
yes.
In the bicycle scene, yeah, they're going to put cards in the bike to make it sound like a motorcycle.
Yes, which is such a cool,
Yes.
real thing that
Yeah.
works.
Yes.
I love that because I remember when I did it as a kid, I
Yeah.
was blown away by
Yeah.
how well it worked.
How it actually worked.
yeah,
It's pretty
it was
cool.
perfect.
Yeah, but then, of course, the deck, they look at it, and
Yep.
Pennywise's face is on it.
Yep,
There's
I would keep one,
creepy
too.
music that appears.
for sure. If
Yeah.
there was any like simple prop to keep, that would be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, nobody's going to miss that.
No.
Yes. And if you guys remember the scene where Beverly goes to her old house, right? Do you remember this? The old lady, Mrs. Kirsch, was a nod to director Irvin Kershner, who was nicknamed Kirsch.
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Supposedly, Stephen King visited a set when they were working on some Star Wars stuff.
yeah.
And Irvin Kershner was also there, and they,
Aw.
talked it up,
Oh.
and they were real friendly. So it was kind of a nice nod.
So he added the name in there.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old lady is living in Bev's apartment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, she thinks anyway.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
thinks that's what
That
happened.
honestly is, I think, Pennywise's most elaborate trick.
Yeah.
Because it's so,
Yeah.
it's like a long burn.
Even
kind
the
of scare.
subtlety of when she first approaches and she sees the name Marsh.
Mm-hmm.
And then once she rings the bell and stuff, and the woman answers, and she's like, "Oh no, your father passed away 3 years ago, or however many, whatever."
Yeah.
And she looks back, and it's now Kirsch
yeah.
instead of Marsh.
Yeah.
It's just like those little mind tricks where it's like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's just a little tip.
Yeah.
It's like she
Yep.
really should not go inside.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, ooh.
Speaking of Beverly, her horrible boyfriend was originally going to be a minor villain, like he is in the book in part 2. Similar to
Yeah.
the bully,
Like Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
coming back later and being more trouble to worry about, along with
geez.
Pennywise.
Yeah.
Her horrible
Adult boyfriend.
adult boyfriend was also going to be one.
Yeah, who really mirrors her dad and the way that her
Yeah.
dad treated her.
What a horrible person.
All right. So, anything else we want to say quickly before we wrap this up? Yeah.
I would say that if you have any hang-ups on Stephen King stories or horror stories in this style or this vein, that this one might get you through
Yeah.
the gate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's looking back, it being from the 90s, watching it now, it's definitely easier to handle.
Yeah.
There obviously are some creepy bits and some scary imagery and things like
Yeah.
that, some serious themes, but none of it really hits as hard as it could.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I've never been somebody to dislike just good stories, even if they are scary. And Stephen King is kind of like a master at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I totally understand that. And so if any other scaredy cats out there are listening,
Give it a chance.
you could probably make it through this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just watch something happy after.
Right.
Yeah, an episode of SpongeBob or something.
Yeah.
And maybe you could watch the new one on mute. or something.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
there's an interesting way to do
The
it.
music and sounds make it a lot scarier. Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
I really liked watching this because I felt like it kind of completed a puzzle from my childhood. My brothers watched it. They read the books. They read the book. It feels like it's multiple books.
Yeah.
But
It makes, thinking about how they have to keep making it in 2 parts.
Right,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, my brothers read the book and they watched the miniseries, and it was something I was very much excluded from.
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, they would read parts of it to me, and I'd remember just to scare me and freak me out.
Yeah.
Because they love doing that. And so, getting to watch it was like, okay, I feel I get to be part of the group again,
Yay.
I love the nostalgia of it, and I love, the dynamic of the kids. I thought the acting was really well done. I don't mind cheesy effects, but I think that, part 1 is so well done. And I just think the story of the friendship is so beautiful in it. The concept that, they're strong together and they're safe together it's really nice.
Yeah. Just
And-
like us.
Yes, exactly. I really do love this story. I love how layered the story is. I think it's really cool. Just, the message of it is so clear.
Yeah.
And I think the thing about Stephen King that makes it much more digestible to people, even scaredy cats, which is what Adam says. I'm a bit of a scaredy cat too, But, the thing that makes it more digestible is that you watch it and you have to remember that the real monsters are humans.
Yeah. Yep.
Almost all the time.
Right.
That's usually what's going on, and this is kind of one of those things where, the monster really emphasizes how adults just aren't there for kids.
Yep.
And at least they weren't at this time. And this is the 80s.
Yep.
This is the time of milk cartons, and like when people started really being afraid about losing kids, and this really emphasized that.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. It's a really good thing about horror.
I feel like thinking back about history now, because at first for a long time it was you were afraid of losing a kid in childbirth or just after childbirth and stuff. But as technology and medicine got better and better, it was less worrisome about all that stuff. It was a lot more likely that your children would live after a certain point. And so then, I feel like then it became, it slowly eventually became like, oh my gosh, now I'm afraid of losing my child in their childhood due to, awful people.
Yeah.
or
And being
whatever.
afraid of the loss of the way things were.
Yeah.
Mourning the way things used to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Parents were letting their kids roam around and walk to school and those kinds of things. And then suddenly, it's like, oh, your child's not safe anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I was safe. What happened?
Yeah.
Why is the world changing? Why are things different? And that's one of those things. It's really scary.
Yeah.
It's really weird to kind of see it still portrayed in that old way, because even at the beginning, like, why is this little girl riding her trike
Yeah.
by herself? Or but that's not even when they were kids. I guess that's like present day.
That's 1990.
Even still in when Georgie's like, oh, I'm gonna go sail this boat by myself in the rain.
Yeah.
I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah. Stephen King's It is for some the quintessential horror novel. It's notoriously long, with a complex story that's incredibly difficult to condense into just 4 hours. But the 1990 miniseries managed to convey the tone of the story and its most important themes of friendship and battling your demons. Whether you think that it's a great adaptation or a campy dud, the miniseries played a huge role in introducing young audiences to Stephen King, generating a new group of horror lovers in the 90s. It also highlighted Tim Curry's impeccable talent as the darkly funny, yet horrifying Pennywise. So, if you're looking for some gateway horror and you're not quite brave enough to read the novel, give this It a chance. And to be safe, stay away from the sewers. Yeah.
That's a good advice for
Good
everybody. I
advice.
think.
Like, I don't want to be
Indeed.
hanging around Eddie's sewers.
Oh, we don't need to be tempting
Yeah,
fate,
yeah.
just in case. Just
No,
in case.
For
exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. And with that, that's another case closed.
There we go.
All right. We'd like to thank our patrons, John, Jacob, JD, Anthony, Shelly, and Bob.
Yay!
Woo!
Thank you so much.
You were awesome.
You are the wind beneath my wings.
I thought you were going to be like, you are the world.
I
You
mean,
are the patrons.
Patrons.
hey, there you go.
You are the ones who make a
this
brighter
better
show.
Damn it.
Just by giving.
All right, you guys. Let us out of this.
We need to go.
Yes.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bill, it's back.